Hello coders, welcome to another How to Code Well Laravel tutorial. Today I'm going to teach you how to use aliases with middleware. We have an API that requires a header. I'm going to show you this in a browser, a REST client. I'll show you the code, and then I'm going to rebuild the code from scratch. So let's take a look at the browser. If we load the web application, we get the Laravel welcome screen. If we go to /API, we get the message requires key, and this is actually returning a 401 status. In the GitHub repository, there is a directory tutorials and tutorial_5. In this tutorial, there is a demo.http file. This file holds 3 requests that we can make using the REST client. If I was to send the first request, which is just going to /API, we get an unauthorized 401 status code. And if I scroll down to the bottom, we can see that it comes with the message requires a key. If we were to supply the header x-secret-key with the value of foo and send that request, we also get the message requires a key with the 401 status code. If, however, I sent the request with the value HTCW as the header key, then I get a 200 OK with the message welcome. In the web.php file in the routes directory, we can see that there are 2 routes available. The first one is /API. That returns the message welcome. However, this route is within a group of middleware. The middleware that we are using is api.key. This is an alias to middleware that we're going to take a look at in a minute. The next route is /. This is going to go to the standard Laravel welcome screen. The api.key alias actually refers to the middleware stored in app http middleware and the file require API key. This middleware has a public constant called secret with the value HTCW. It has a handle method. This handle method has a key variable that is assigned the value of the x-secret-key header of the request. There is a check to see if the key is not the same as the value of the secret constant. And if it is not the same, then we return a JSON response with the message requires key, and the response has a 401 HTTP status code. The alias of this middleware is defined in bootstrap app.php. If we scroll down here, we can see that we have the with middleware method. This has the middleware alias with the key api.key, and the value is the class name of the require API key class. As this is an array, we can have more aliases. And in fact, there are Laravel middlewares that have aliases that we can use in our applications. If this didn't make any sense, then don't worry, because I'm about to rebuild it. I'm going to start by removing this middleware alias from the app.php. I'm also going to delete the middleware itself, and in the web.php root file, I'm going to delete this middleware group. The first thing I'm going to do is create a route to /API, which returns a response of JSON with a data payload that has message as a key with a value of welcome. If I was to go to demo.http and send the request that goes to /API, we're going to get a 200 OK. In fact, we're going to get a 200 OK regardless of which request we make. So if I made a request with the header secret key of foo, that's also a 200 OK. Same with a request that actually has the correct secret key that we want. So let's go and build the middleware that checks for the right key. In a terminal, type php artisan make middleware, and then the middleware name is require API key. That's going to create the middleware file within app http middleware and the file require API key. Within the handle method, we're going to create a variable called key, and we're going to assign that the variable of request header and x x-secret-key. We're then going to create a public constant in this class. We're going to call the constant secret, and we're going to have the value of this constant as htcw. Back in the handle method, we're going to write an if statement which checks that the variable key does not equal the constant secret. If the application lands in the body of this if statement, we know that we don't have that correct key. This means that we can return a response, which is JSON, with a data payload which has message as a key and its value requires key. If this check passes, then we return to the next closure. Now we've created our middleware, let's now hook this into our roots. So go to the web.php file in the roots directory. We're going to create the root middleware group. So type root : middleware, and we're going to supply the middleware that this group requires. In this case, it's the middleware that we've just created, which is called require API key. We then call the group method and we supply the callback, which is a function. And in the body of this function, we copy and paste the API root. We need to go back to our middleware and we need to supply the HTTP status code of 401 to the JSON response. Now we can go to the demo.http file, which is in the root of this tutorial, and send the first request again. This request doesn't have any headers, so we're going to return a 401 unauthorized status code. This should also have the message requires key. This is also the same to the second request. But if we pass the third request with the header x-secret-key with the value of HTCW, we should get a 200 status code with the message welcome. The final part of this puzzle is to create an alias for this middleware. In the web.php roots file, we can change the class name require API key within the middleware method to actually be an alias to this file. For example, we can call this API.key. Now, of course, we need to create the alias for this to work. And if I send a request with this, we're going to get a 500 internal server error because this alias doesn't exist. The aliases are defined in bootstrap app.php. Within the bootstrap file, we can define all sorts of different settings and configuration. There's a method called withMiddleware on the application, and we can supply aliases to certain middlewares that we've created. Within this function, use the middleware variable to call the alias method. Within this method, we can supply an array of aliases, where the key is the alias and the value is the file in which it's aliasing to. So in this case, we want to create the alias API.key with the value require API key : class. And we can check this by running our REST client against the first request. We get a 401 unauthorized, and the third request, which has the key, that gives us a 200 OK. Aliases make middlewares far easier to use. Imagine if you have lots of aliases that you want to include in your application. You can create aliases that are shorthands to long class names. And having dot notations is a way of organizing your middleware. There is a lot of Laravel middleware that has aliases that you can use in your application. If you found this tutorial helpful, then do give it a thumbs up, share it around to those who might find it useful too. If you've got any comments or suggestions for future tutorials, please let me know. Go to howtocodewell.net/contact. And whilst you're there, consider signing up to howtocodewell.net for future tutorials and courses. Happy coding, everyone. I'll see you again in the next Laravel tutorial.